let's get into offensive headlines and storylines for Nebraska going into this UCLA game. I want to start with Dylan Raiola as a runner because we had never seen it. And these weren't designed Adrian Martinez, Jamal Lord, QB draw plays. I mean, these were, you know what, we call it pass play, and they're going to not account for me as a runner, and I'm going to take free yards. And one of those runs, you know, was one of the longest runs we've seen from a Nebraska player all year.
Yeah, he had 3 scrambles on the first series, 3 5-yard scrambles on the first series. Then, or excuse me, I think it was actually the third series, 3 5-yard scrambles. Then on the 4th series, he took off 38 yards, which, yeah, we hadn't seen that. And it set up a field goal. And I do think, I don't know what Dylan said today because I didn't hear him. I was writing the coordinator stuff. I don't know if it was, I don't know if there's a conscious effort to get him more involved that way or not. Satterfield indicated they hadn't even talked about it. So I don't know what it was, but it was big. I mean, and he can run a little bit.
And it was something he did say he always knew that he had that element to his game, and he was actually mad at himself, particularly after one play against Indiana, where it was a 3rd down, and he could have probably just put his head down and run and got the first down. Instead, he tried to throw it. It went incomplete, or I can't remember what the result of the play was. They didn't get the first down, and that kind of stuck with him a little bit.
Did he say that?
Yes, he said that. And so that, I think, probably sparked this mentality where going into it, he was going to run it more. And Sierra Wright actually said, too, that during the week, he could kind of see a performance like the Ohio State game coming because of the way Dylan was just a little more aggressive to take off and run. And just given the issues they're having right now in the passing game, that's such an important thing to just add to the entire offense, where you don't have to completely rely on your running backs to be able to keep drives on schedule. It opens things up, makes teams less aggressive with how they cover, and just kind of makes life as a whole for your offense easier when you have at least a semblance of a threat with the QB run game.
And, you know, you get worried about a quarterback taking hits too much, but when you compare Dylan Raiola's physical size to a corner or even a safety hitting him down the field, he's a lot bigger than those guys. So he's smart. You know, Dylan doesn't let himself just take bad hits very often. I mean, you hate to use the Mahomes analogy, but he took the free yards, and you see Patrick Mahomes do the same thing in Chiefs games. When everyone's covering the field, run. And I think that opened up so much more at times for this offense, particularly in the running game when we started to see Dante Dowdell get hot for a moment there in that game.
Yeah, when the teams are in man coverage, backs are turned to the quarterback a lot of the times. That's when you can take off, and that's what he saw. I mean, and yeah, it's sort of like a wrinkle now, and I don't know. He showed he can slide too, which is important. We've seen a quarterback at Nebraska, Chubba Purdy, who had an awkward slide at Michigan, and it took him out of action. So yeah, Dylan looks like he can do it. And I think it is something it gives defenses something else to think about.
You know what it also does? It negates the run blitzes teams are going after him, where they're sending multiple linebackers in to stuff the run on early downs. Well, if you can still get rushing production, but do it out of a pass look, that kind of changes the ability of the defenses to just go all in to put you in 2nd and 10 with a run blitz.
Yeah, and moving forward, I thought the offensive line guys too, you know, they protected well enough in that game for Nebraska. I mean, Ohio State blitzed 14 times, and Raiola was only under pressure on 7 of his dropbacks in that game. So for as, you know, much stuff as we've seen go wrong with injuries at left tackle and some of the personnel moves, you got to give Donovan Raiola credit because he has gotten that line to a pretty good level of play, particularly in pass protection. It was one of their better pass protection games they've had in a while, especially consider the opponent they were going against.
Gunnar Gatula hangs in there really well. I'm really impressed. That's a great thing for the future for Nebraska to be playing a redshirt freshman left tackle and have him. He holds in there really well. And now, I thought Ohio State did a good job when there's a couple times it collapsed fast on Dylan. People are sort of overlooking that. When they came a couple times, it was whoa. I mean, it looked like a top 6 unit. But generally speaking, Nebraska did a pretty good job protection for sure.
And again, that's a big part of this whole operation. You know, that's about the receivers getting off routes. But if Dylan doesn't have any time to sit there and let routes develop, you're really hamstrung with what you
Oh,
can do. And they're forced into those man beaters, which fans have lamented over for the last couple of weeks. So being able to consistently improve your pass protection, I mean, that just opens up everything else.
Now, one thing I'll be interested, guys, on Saturday is when and if Nebraska throws their first screen play and it gets bottled up.
Yeah.
Are you anticipating?
We'll hear some. We'll hear some.
Yeah, you might hear that. You might hear that. I would think. It seems like people are fixated on that a little bit. Nebraska Satterfield kind of glossed over it today. They both
chuckled.
Yeah, he laughed when you asked him about it.
Yeah, they both said the same thing. And that is, against heavy blitz, that's what you do. That's one thing you do. There's a few things you can do. You can throw an outside screen. You can throw a tunnel screen. I think that was a tunnel screen to Nayor where he about got in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know exactly, but they're throwing. Obviously, the two they threw on the last series is what's at issue with a lot of people, I guess.
You're listening here to the Husker Online show. A couple of other notes on the offense. Thomas Fedoni is having his best stretch that we've seen at Nebraska as a receiver. But then also Ja'Cory Barney, he's had 20 targets in the last 2 games with 15 catches. He converted first downs on 4 receptions last week. So Ja'Cory Barney and Fedoni have been real stories the last 2 weeks.
Especially Fedoni. What was it, 6 for 91 against Indiana. And then he followed it up with 50-some yards of receiving against Ohio State. He's very good, like Satterfield said Tuesday, very good vertical threat. He gets upfield well. His catch radius is outstanding. He has good hands. He never drops anything, and he's good after the catch. He's starting to play like, a highly rated high school tight end should play. Mm-hmm. Barney has gotten a lot of touches, not a lot of yards. He's not getting over the top. I'd like to see him get over the top a little bit more and turn some of those, those short shovel passes into longer gains. Barney's good.
They count for him, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have to.
He's been a benefactor of that reliance on the screen game, too, where if it's not a running back screen, it's usually a little bubble to Barney that doesn't get much either.
God, he's something else. He's tougher than hell at that size. They got to get more out of Nayor and Banks. That's kind of what it comes down to for me. If you can get more out of those guys, it would balance things up quite a bit.